Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder, part of the Chronicles of Exia series. The guard shook me hard. Pain coursed up my arm to my shoulder and neck. In a panic, I searched the hallway for help. It was deserted. That's right, he prefers him skinned alive. I'd heard enough. I did what any good rat would do. I bit down on the guard's hand until I tasted blood. Yelping and cursing in surprise, his grip lessened. I jerked my arm out of his grasp and ran. Chapter 5. I was only a couple of steps away from Bazel's guards when they recovered from their surprise and began to chase me. Being terrified and unburdened of weapons, I had a slight advantage. It wouldn't last. I was already puffing with the effort. The corridors were mysteriously empty as I ran through them. If I did find someone, I wasn't really sure they would or could help me. Like a rat, my only hope of escape was to find a hole to hide in. I ran without a plan, caring only about keeping ahead of the guards. The corridors blurred together until I imagined I was running in place, and it was the walls that were moving. I slowed for a moment to get my bearings. Where was I? The light in the hallway was waning. My pounding steps kicked dust up off the floor. I had headed towards an isolated part of the castle, a perfect place for a quiet murder. Quiet because I wouldn't have had enough air in my lungs to scream. I made a quick right turn into a corridor that led into darkness. Momentarily out of the guard's sight, I pushed against the first door I encountered. Groaning and creaking, it yielded slightly under my weight, and then stuck tight. A big enough gap for my body, but not my head. Hearing the guards run down the corridor, I threw myself against the door. It moved another inch. I tumbled headfirst into a dark room and landed on the floor. The guards found the door. I watched in horror as they tried to muscle it open. The gap began to expand. I scanned the room, my eyes adjusted to the gloom. Empty barrels and rotten sacks of grain littered the floor. A pile of rugs was stacked against the far wall below a window. The door surrendered a couple more inches to the guards' efforts before lodging again. I stood and stacked the barrels on top of a rug pile. Scrambling up them, I reached the window only to discover it was too small for me to fit through. The door cracked ominously. I used my elbow to shatter the window pane. Pulling the ragged glass fragments out of the frame, I tossed them to the floor. Blood ran down my arm. Heedless of the pain, I jumped down, pressed myself against the wall next to the doorway, and fought to stifle the harsh sound of my breathing. With a loud groan, the door stalked mere inches away from my face as the guards stumbled into the storeroom. "Check the window, I'll cover the door," Wren said. I peeked around the edge. Wren's companion walked to the pile of rugs and barrels, crushing glass beneath his boots. My plan wasn't going to work. Wren blocked my escape route. The broken window would only delay the inevitable. "Too small, she's still in here," the guard called from above. My rough breathing had accelerated into fast gasps. I felt lightheaded. The rat trap had sprung. I was immobilized in its metal jaws. My thoughts jumbled into a cloud of images. I clutched at the door, trying not to fall. A buzzing sound burst uncontrolled from my throat. I was unable to suppress the drone. Trying harder only caused the sound to grow louder. I staggered out from behind the door. With all the noise I made, the guards didn't even glance in my direction. They seemed frozen in place. My lungs strained for air. On the verge of passing out, the buzzing then released me. The sounds still rang in the room, but it no longer came from me. The guards continued to be unresponsive. After taking several breaths, I bolted from the room. I wasn't going to waste any time trying to understand. The buzzing sound followed me as I ran back the way that we had come. The loud hum ended as soon as I started seeing other servants hurrying through the hallway. Odd looks were cast my way. I realised I must be quite a sight. I forced myself to stop running as I tried to calm my hammering heart. My throat burned from panting. My uniform was stained. Pain throbbed in my elbow and bright red beads dripped off my fingers. Looking at my hands, I saw deep cuts from handling the glass. I gazed at the blood on the floor. Turning around, I saw a line of crimson drops disappearing down the corridor. I clutched my arm to my chest, but it was too late. I had left a blood trail, and there were Brazel's guards, like trained dogs following it. They were coming around the corner at the far end of the hall. Undetected so far, I knew any sudden movement would draw their attention. I joined a group of servants, hoping to blend in. Pain pulsated in harmony with my labouring heartbeat. When I reached a turn, I risked a glance over my shoulder. The guard stood at the spot where my blood trail had ended. Ren gestured as he argued with his partner. I slipped around the corner unnoticed, then bumped right into Valak. "Yelena, what happened to you?" Valak grabbed my arm. I winced. He let go. "I fell on some glass. It was weak. I hurried to cover it. I'm on my way to get cleaned up." As I began to walk past Valak, he grasped my shoulder, spinning me around. "You need to see a medic." "Ah, okay." I tried once more to get past Valak. "The medic is this way." Valak pulled on my shoulder, forcing me to follow him back down the corridor toward the guards. Foolishly, I hoped they wouldn't see me, but as soon as we walked past, they smiled, falling into step behind us. I glanced at Valak. There was no expression on his face. His grip on my shoulder tightened. Was Valak leading me to some scheduled spot where the three of them would kill me? Should I make a break for it? But if Valak had wanted me dead, he had only to withhold the antidote to the butterfly's dust. When the hallway emptied of people, Valak let go of my shoulder and swung around to face the two guards. I stayed close behind him. "Are you lost?" Valak asked the guards. "No, sir," said Ren, a foot taller than Valak. His hands were the size of my head. "Just wanted to reclaim our prisoner." Ren tried to reach around Valak to grab me. Valak deflected his hand. "Your prisoner?" Valak's voice sliced through the air like steel. The guards looked at each other in disbelief. Valak had no weapons. While the other guard was shorter than Ren, he still outweighed the other two men. Identical cocky smirks touched both guards' faces. I wondered if sneering and glaring were part of their training. Rand the cook would probably bet a month's wages on Brazel's soldiers winning this argument. "Actually, General Brazier's prisoner, sir. Now, if you would..." Ren gestured for Valak to step aside. "Tell your boss that Valak doesn't appreciate having his new food taster chased through the castle, and that I would like her to be left alone." The guards glanced at each other again. I was beginning to suspect that they only had one brain to share between them. Regarding Valak with a more focused expression, they shifted their posture into a fighting stance. "We have been ordered to bring the girl to the general, not messages," Ren said, pulling his sword from his belt. With the sound of ringing metal, the second guard flourished his weapon as well. Ren asked Valak to move aside once more. Faced with two swords, what could Valak do? Run for my life is what I would do, so I shifted my weight to the balls of my feet, preparing to flee. Valak's right hand blurred into motion with two quick snaps of his wrist. It looked as if he had saluted both guards. Before the men could react, he was between them, too close for swords. He crouched low, put his hands on the floor, and spun. Using his legs, Valak windmilled both guards to the ground. I heard a clatter of metal, a whoosh of air from Ren, and a curse from the other before they both lay motionless. Baffled, I watched Valak gracefully move away from his fallen opponents. He counted under his breath. When he reached 10, he bent over each man and removed a tiny dart from each of their necks. It's a dirty way to fight, but I'm late for lunch.